Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. I find Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn's attitude towards Devin Haney to be quite astonishing. They were sat ringside when he dropped and outboxed Brian Norman to become a three-weight world champion, and they were mocking him, particularly Conor Benn, for being boring. After the fight, they were dismissing the possibility of fighting him, again because he's boring. And I said in my post-fight video that I don't buy Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn's reasoning for not wanting to fight Devin Haney. Not that he isn't boring to watch, because he is most of the time. I just don't think that alone would put Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn off fighting him. I think the real reason why they're not rushing to try and make a fight with Devin Haney is because they think he's the most difficult of the champions to beat currently at 147 pounds. That's why. Their excuse is, he's boring, who wants to see that? And of course, when Eddie Hearn promoted Devin Haney, you didn't hear any of this talk from him about Haney being boring. All you heard from him was praise. Promoters are not to be trusted, not just by the public, but by fighters themselves who are signed to these promoters. Irrespective of the things Devin Haney and his dad have done and said outside the ring to make people dislike them, in the ring, Devin Haney has had a very successful career. Three-weight world champion, been in there with some big names, had some good wins, far better wins than Conor Benn has ever had. And Devin Haney, as he pointed out recently in an interview he did with Ariel Helwani, is younger than Conor Benn. So for Conor Benn to be trying to mock this guy and act like he doesn't need Devin Haney and what have you, like I said at the start of the video, is pretty astonishing. Another thing that's astonishing, and another point that Devin Haney made, is that Eddie Hearn has accused him of fighting purely for money. And he pointed out, hang on, I'm the one winning world titles out here. It's Conor who's fighting purely for money, or mostly for money. That's why he took the Chris Eubank fight. There was no world title to be gained there. It was a gimmick fight based on the rivalry of their fathers. It was just a money-making exercise. And in fact, that's a question to ask you guys. Is Conor Benn basically being steered by Eddie Hearn to becoming just a gimmick fighter rather than a legacy-focused, serious boxer? Because the Eubank Jr. thing wasn't the only time they tried to go down that road. There was also talk of fighting Manny Pacquiao. Now look, objectively speaking, do I enjoy watching Conor Benn or Devin Haney more? Definitely Conor Benn, because of his style. But the rhetoric coming from Benn and Hearn regarding Devin Haney, how dismissive they are of him, is kind of farcical as far as I'm concerned. And as I say, it's indicative of Benn and Hearn caring more about money and gimmick fights than any legitimate boxing legacy. And of course, money comes with a legitimate boxing legacy. Another thing that Devin Haney spoke about on the Ariel Helwani show, when you focus on trying to be the best and taking the necessary fights, money's going to come automatically. You won't have to chase it in most cases. When you do something for the love, money's going to come. Whereas with Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn, they're putting money first before any kind of love for the sport. Now with Eddie Hearn, it doesn't matter as much. He's only a promoter. But for a fighter, it matters more that you actually love the sport. Because when you love something, you're more likely to do it well. And loving the sport doesn't just mean training hard. Loving the sport means having aspirations to be the best and taking the necessary steps to prove that you're the best. Is Conor Benn doing that? Hell no! He hasn't been doing that over the past few years. And to finish up, here we have a guy in Conor Benn who boiled Chris Eubank Jr. down with a rehydration clause twice and basically told Chris Eubank Jr. not to complain about it. I mean, to some extent that's fair because Chris Eubank Jr. agreed to it. But then Conor Benn's going to turn around and apparently refuse to contest the IBF welterweight title because they've got a next day rehydration clause. You couldn't make it up. This guy is not willing to do the very thing that he made Chris Eubank Jr. do. Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn were jumping up and down, elated, after they beat a shell of a man in Chris Eubank Jr. in that rematch. Totally dead at the weight. He had nothing. Apparently there was some type of health issue which affected him in the first and second fights. But his cousin, Harlem Eubank, insinuated that that health issue came about because he's been punishing his body for too long, making 160. And that would make sense. The older you get, the more difficult it's going to be to make that weight. Those are my thoughts on the Conor Benn, Eddie Hearn versus Devin Haney saga. Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.